Okay, we're going to go on to chapter 8, the mathematics of selling, the concepts we're going to discuss. There are 4 parts to this. It's the markup on cost, markup on selling price, markdown, and inventory turnover. We're probably not going to worry too much about the turnover evaluation of inventory. As we've discussed in class, if you're much more interested in inventory turnover, then the appropriate thing would be to take an accounting class. Okay, so when we start talking about markup on cost, we're going to focus on specific terms and the terminology and what they mean. When we say cost, that's the amount paid to a manufacturer or supplier. When we say selling price, that's the price at which the merchandise is sold to the public. Markup, margin, or gross profit is really a computation of taking the selling price and subtracting from that or minus the cost. You have operating expenses or overhead. Those are expenses that are really over and above the cost of the merchandise itself. So you have to run the business, you have to run the restaurant, you have to run the retail store. Such things such as wages, rent, buildings, equipment, utilities, insurance, and advertising. Those are all considered to be operating expenses or sometimes referred to as overhead. And then your net profit is really the total revenues minus your cost of the good, which will give you your gross profit. And then you'll take the gross profit, and from that you'll subtract your operating expenses, and that gives you your net profit. Selling price is equal to the cost plus the markup. So the example here giving is managers mark up the cost of an item before selling it. For example, REI pays $549.20 to buy a set of skis and marks the price up by $126.70. So based upon the information we have $549.20. That's the cost of the item. We're going to add a markup to that so that the company can cover its expenses plus maybe make a little bit of money off of it in terms of profit. So they're going to take their cost, they're going to add the markup to it, equals to the selling price. Now the format here is something we want to get used to because we're going to be doing this over and over. You have the cost, you have the markup, and the selling price. So in other words, line it up vertically because you're going to be doing this for most of the problems that we're working on. We're going to be doing this, okay? So here's an example of how we've taken the numbers here and just lined them up vertically. Cost, markup, selling price, CMS, and the numbers. We've got the example here. Let's just focus on B. C plus M equals S. Solve for the unknown. That should be pretty simple. Go ahead and plug in. Okay, so the solution to B, you're simply taking the difference between the cost and the sales amount because you know you need to add the markup. That difference is going to be $41.17. All right, now we look at finding the markup on cost. So there's another formula we want to learn. The markup on cost is equal to the amount of the markup divided by the cost. We'll use this pi as a reference point. B times R equals P if you recall, but we also know that if we're solving for R, which is really the markup on cost, that's the rate we're looking for. If we solve for R, we just take the part divided by the base, P divided by B. So that's what this really means. Amount of markup is the part, the cost is the base. If the markup is on cost, then the cost becomes the base. So what we're going to learn is we're going to learn that we need to set up, just like we had set up before, the formula vertically. Now we can set up the percentages vertically as well. Okay? So in this example here, we have a retailer pay $90 for MP3 player and then sells it for $126. So now we have an unknown variable, 90 and 126. So let's go ahead and get our calculator out, our piece of paper out, and let's write that up. So now here we're going to replace the cost with $90. We don't know what the markup is, but we know what the sales price is, 126. Okay? So now we have an unknown variable. The unknown variable is the markup. Well, if I know this plus that equals this, then I also know to get the markup, I'm just going to take the difference between the sales price and the cost. In other words, 126 minus 90 will give us the markup. Now over to the left of the formula, we could actually set up percentages. So to the left of the formula, we're going to set up percentages. All right. Now, whenever I'm looking at this formula, and this is important to remember because this is going to change, when we're looking for the markup on cost, then cost becomes 100%. So without even doing anything, I know that my cost is going to be 100%. Okay? I don't have to do anything. I don't have to know anything. I just know that because the markup is on cost, then cost is 100%. Now the question is, well, what's my percentage of markup? Because once I have that, then I can add those two together and I'll get my percentage of sales to the cost. So the formula that I've learned, or that I can use, is the markup on cost is the amount of the markup divided by the cost. The amount of the markup, M, divided by the cost. Amount of markup divided by the cost. M divided by C. So if I take $36 and I divide that by $90, I come up with 0.4, which in terms of a percent is 40%. I'm going to take 100% of cost, I'm going to add 40% to that, and my sales price is 140% of the cost. We just followed the same formula listed here. Cost plus markup equals the sales price. Well, these are in dollars, this is in percentages. Go ahead and try to solve this problem. A discount store bought hiking boots manufactured in Mexico for $60 and sells them for $81. Find the percent of markup based on cost. Okay, so we're going to get our little formula here, our spreadsheet, our calculator, I should say. And clear everything out because now we're looking at a new problem. And it's saying discount store bought hiking boots manufactured in Mexico for $60. So my cost is $60. Sells them for $81. So my selling price is $81. Find the percent markup based on cost. What do I know? I know that cost is 100%. Okay, that's all I need to know. From here I can pretty much solve everything. So to find the markup in dollars, I'm simply going to take the difference between 81 minus the 60. So now I have the markup in dollar amounts. And we remember, if you remember the formulas, in order to come up with our markup percentage, is that what it's asking for us? Find percent markup based on cost. So the percent markup on cost, this is what we're talking about. Now incidentally, since we're there, we'll go ahead and find all of these. But what it's telling us is that because the cost is the base, I'm simply going to take the dollar amount of my markup, the dollar amount of my markup, and I'm going to divide that by the base, which is 100%, which is $60. So $21 divided by $60 is going to give us 35%. And from here I just add these two to follow the formula. So if all they really wanted was a 35. Okay, moving on, go ahead and work on Dick's Sporting Goods example. By the way, pause. In the Dick's Sporting Goods example, we have a markup on a dumbbell set for $16, which is 50% of the firm's cost. Complete the table. So I'll go ahead and clear these out on both sides. And just remember, you can do this on a piece of paper. I put it on a spreadsheet because it's easier for me to record it and show it. But if I were in the classroom, I'd just be writing this all out. It's probably cleaner this way too. Anyway, so let's go ahead and look at the problem. The problem says puts a markup on a dumbbell set of $16. So the markup, they gave us the markup of $16. They tell us that the set of markup, which is 50% of the firm's cost. So now they're saying 50% here. Complete the table. Now this seems like, okay, we don't have enough information, but we really do. All right, we really do, because what do we know? We know that the cost is 100%. The cost is 100%. So what do we know? We know if we would have had the cost and we would have multiplied by this percentage, we would have come up with the markup. the cost multiplied by the percentage gives us the markup. But in this case, we don't have the original cost. So if we go forward with multiplication to go backwards, we would use division. So the way it would work is $16 divided by 0.5 or 50% will give us the cost. Got that? So let's do that. $16 divided by 0.5 or 50%, that gives us $32. So our cost is $32. If we add the markup to that in terms of dollar amounts, 32 plus 16 gives us a total of 48. And 100% plus 50% is 150%. Okay, let's look at example number 4. Find the markup on the selling price for a belt if the cost is $23.60 and the markup is 45%. Press pause. Solve, come back. So what do we know? Find the markup on the selling price for a belt if the cost is $23.60. The cost is $23.60 and the markup is 45%. Is that all they gave us? Yep. And it's all based on cost, so that we can then plug in. Now we could finish this over here. We know that 100% plus 45% is 145%. So this is finished, but we don't have the dollar amounts, and that's what we need. That's not what we need to plug in. So $23 is the cost, 45% is the markup. Now we can come up with the markup. $23 multiplied by 45%, that's the percent markup. $23 times 45% gives me $10.62. And if I add these two together, $23.60 plus $10.62 gives me $34.22. REI sells a down sleeping bag rated for very cold weather for $308. If the markup on cost is 40%, find the amount that REI pays for one sleeping bag, then find the markup. Okay, so let's get our little formula here. Just like I mentioned, you'll be writing this by hand if you have to. It's not a big deal. Just write it exactly the way I have it on the screen. It tells us that sells the sleeping bag for $308. So selling S is $308. The markup on cost is 40%. This is what's kind of interesting here. What do we know? Let's go with what we know. We know that the cost is 100%. And so we know that this is 140%. Now this is kind of key here, because now it's going to be relevant how we came up with this number, or how we could back into this number. The way we could come up with this number is, since this 140% is based on cost, so this is 140% of cost. Let me repeat that. This is, the sales price is 140% of cost. In other words, whatever this number is, multiplied by this number will give us this. Let me repeat. This number, the cost, multiplied by this rate that we came up with, will give us $308. Well, if that would work as a multiplication forward, then going backwards, what do? We divide. So therefore, $308 divided by 140% will give us that number, that cost. So let's do it. Well, 308 divided by 140% gives us $220. That is our cost. So now we just have to figure out, well, what do we come up with the markup? And the markup is going to be the difference between the sales price and the cost. So we got it. Let's look at this problem. The retail price of a 54-inch portable basketball system is $549.99. The retailer has operating expenses of 29.5% and wants a 5.5% profit, both based on cost. First, find the total percent of the markup on costs, then find the other values in the table. See if you can handle this. Pause it. Okay, so let's follow the instructions. It says first find the total percent of markup on cost. The total percent of markup on cost, then find the other values in the table. Well, what is our cost? Retail price of the 54-inch portable basketball system is $549. The retailer has operating expenses of 29.5% and 5.5% for profit. So 29.5%, and we're going to add to that 5.5% for profit. So 0.295 plus 0.055, what does that equal? It equals 35%. So now that I know what my percentages are, let's go ahead and clear out our table from the previous problem. So I'm going to plug in the cost is 100%. The markup is going to have to be 35% because that's going to cover my cost and my markup, so that ultimately the sales price is going to be 135%. 135% of the cost. The sales price will be 135% of the cost. Alright, so now that I have those numbers, I can then plug in the sales price. The sales price was given. Sales price was $549.99. And here's what I know. I know whatever the cost is multiplied by 135%, that's going to give me the sales price. Well, I don't know what this is, but I know that times that equals this. So therefore, this divided by that will give me this. The sales divided by 135% is going to give me the original cost. The cost of the item is $407.40. Now I can plug in the difference, $549.99 minus the $407.40, and now it all works. $407.40 plus $142.59 equals $549.99.